Beth is a celebrant who has built a reputation for bringing warmth, empathy and professionalism to every ceremony she leads. She has a remarkable ability to put people at ease, guiding families through some of life's most emotional occasions with care and compassion. I know from working with her how naturally she connects with people, and I'm excited for you to hear more about her journey and insights. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Beth.
You make me blush.
I know you're someone warm and engaging, and I think the audience will pick up on that today. But I'd like to start at the beginning. What drew you into celebrancy in the first place?
Well, thank you. So it goes back a few years now, and actually it was more related to the wedding side of my business. But I attended a friend's wedding. I wasn't working at the time. It was a wedding that I was really excited about. And unfortunately, hopefully, we'll mention no names so they don't know who I'm talking about. But their ceremony just left me cold, to be honest. Walked away feeling quite flat about it and rather brazenly said to my husband, I could have done better than that. And basically he challenged me, and I'm a very competitive person, Wills. So I started looking into it. I hadn't really come across celebrants before, but when I started looking into it, it definitely resonated with me as something that I thought I would really enjoy. It fed into a lot of kind of previous experience, my love of writing, my love of people, my events management background, and the fact that, and this might sound strange, probably not to you, as a small child, I was that person saying to my parents, so what do you want for your funeral? And so it had always been niggling somewhere at the back. And yeah, it was a bit of a light bulb moment, I suppose. And so retrained, and here I am.
Fantastic. So I remember the first time I saw you lead a ceremony, via webcast actually, supporting one of our families, and you were so natural in that role. Can you take us back to your very first ceremony that you led and what it felt like for you?
Firstly, you kept that clock quiet. You didn't tell me you've been spying on me. I can remember it, actually. I can remember it really clearly. It was your colleague Jennifer had taken a chance on me as my first ever funeral. And with that comes, obviously, quite an intense amount of pressure. You know, I felt like I was representing Freeman brothers, but also I was representing a family who I had taken the time to get to know and support through the process of planning the funeral. And so standing there, you know, there's a lot riding on it, but I'm a planner. So, you know, I'd rehearsed what I was going to do. I'd been to the crematorium beforehand. I'd been into the chapel. I'd met the chapel attendant. So actually, there was an element of calm and confidence despite the nerves. And walking away from it, actually, there was a feeling that I suppose I recognised from live events of that kind of adrenaline rush of having presented the funeral that the family were hoping for and expecting, and feeling like I'd done a reasonable job of it, hopefully. And so then came a sort of reassuring feeling, I suppose, that actually everything that I'd hoped it would be and everything that I thought I could possibly bring to the role was slotting into place. So yeah, it was a good feeling ultimately, although slightly nerve-wracking to start with.
Okay. So from working with you, I've seen how empathetic you are with families, and their feedback is a gentle reminder of this too. But do you find that people often have misconceptions about what a celebrant does, especially at funerals?
I think people are more comfortable with the idea of celebrants than they perhaps once were. I think a lot of people now have probably attended, be it a funeral or a wedding or a naming ceremony that a celebrant has led. Whether they realise that they're a celebrant or not, you know, that's a different thing. I suppose the part that possibly surprises people is that, and I speak for myself here, all celebrants are slightly different, that I openly say I welcome all faiths and none. So when it comes to that decision of the type of funeral ceremony that somebody wants to have for their person. It's not necessarily that you have to choose a religious minister if you want to include elements of faith within a ceremony. My aim is to make it very much person-centred and based around the person that we're remembering. And if it feels right for them or the people who are attending for there to be elements of faith within it, then that's something that I really welcome. I'm more than happy leading people in prayers or, sharing blessings and things. And actually, sometimes it also means working alongside others. So I'm thinking of a ceremony that I did not so long ago where the person that we were remembering had a Buddhist faith. And so I worked with a monk to deliver the ceremony that felt right for them. And that was amazing because, I loved learning about the different rituals and, traditions within that faith. So I suppose, going back to your question, the bit that people don't necessarily expect is that you can still include some of those different elements if you opt to have a celebrant over a religious minister.
Perfect, thank you. So one of the things that makes you stand out is how you put people at ease. From your perspective, what difference does having a celebrant make compared to perhaps a more traditional service?
Thanks, I'm going to take that compliment. I would say that it's possibly a slightly more involved process. So when I'm contacted either by a family directly or through funeral directors like Freeman Brothers and others, I will get in contact with the family and arrange to go and meet with them in person. And I will sit with them, for as long as it takes. Essentially, that's often a couple of hours of asking lots of questions, giving lots of prompts to hear about the person that we are remembering. The things that made them laugh, the things that they achieved, the things that they might reflect on in their own life, or, the things that you would want to be remembered for. And then it's my job to take all of those and to write a ceremony. And it's a ceremony that I then share with the family. So I want the family to feel confident on the day that it's a ceremony being shared with those that are there, that they know and that they are confident and comfortable with. So, they have control over that. If they want me to change things, I will absolutely change it. But I think the result is something that is much more personal. It tells that person's story. It comes from a place of love, from those who've shared all those amazing stories with me. And it's an honour to do so.
Brilliant, thank you. So I've always admired how celebrants manage to be both calm and professional, but also warm and supportive. How do you balance those two sides of yourself during such emotional occasions?
Sometimes it's easier than others, I'll be honest. I suppose my background was very much the sort of professional side of things. I've always worked in roles where I've had to be on top of what's happening, to be calm under pressure, that swan kind of impression that you might be paddling furiously underneath, but everything's calm on top. So I suppose I've learnt that kind of throughout years of lots of different jobs. And then the other side of it is hopefully something that comes from a natural place of, I love meeting people. So to be welcomed into people's homes at a really vulnerable time, to be told lots of really personal stories and memories and things, I do build a connection with those people. So I'm invested in them, in the same way that your team are. We really want the best for those people that we're supporting at the time. So yeah, the two balance each other, and ultimately, however much somebody's story of their life, their death, and everything else in between might resonate, we all love that word trigger these days, I have to remind myself that it's not my grief. So however much I feel that emotion, I feel it would be insincere, possibly, to allow that to take over. there are moments, I'm not going to lie, there are moments where, some of that emotion catches up, but I'm there to do a job, and it's a job that I take really seriously. So, yeah, I have to keep it under control.
Sure. Something I can certainly relate to in my role as well, during arrangements.
Yeah.
So I imagine many of your ceremonies do leave a mark on you. Is there one, perhaps without giving names, that has really stayed with you, something that was especially powerful or perhaps more memorable?
Yeah, I mean, lots of them stay with you, and again, as I'm sure you know, for all sorts of different reasons, and it's probably not always the ones that other people might expect it to be. But the one that comes to mind right now was actually fairly recent, and it was a ceremony that had come out of very tragic circumstances. But the family felt that they had a really, really important message to share. And, that was a huge pressure, but also a huge honour to try and share that eloquently and articulately with a room full of people. And I suppose the power of that moment was seeing it land. And that's the part, I think, that really hits me, is when you're stood in front of a room full of people and you can share something and you can see it really resonate with them, and that it maybe slightly changed their thinking about that situation. So yeah, that one will sit with me for a long time, I think.
Have you ever had a request from a family that was completely unexpected, and how did you respond to it?
This is not a challenge. I don't want lots of random requests. But I did have one where the family wanted everybody to can out of the space at the end of the ceremony, which made sense in this situation, because the person that we were remembering during lockdown had done some online learning with her grandchildren. And obviously, it was a really hard time. She wasn't able to see these grandchildren, despite the fact that they lived really close to her. And at the end of their sort of homeschooling session with her, each time she would put on the can music at her end, and they would put it on at their end, and they'd all grab tea towels, and they would do the can at their respective locations. And so it felt like a really special thing to do at the farewell to that wonderful woman, to recreate that. So when everybody came into the space, they had a tea towel on their chairs, and I think they all thought we were bonkers at that point. And then they probably thought we were even more bonkers at the end when I said that I was inviting everybody to can out of the chapel. But you know what? It was so joyful. They all got involved. They did a sort of conga line can, which was amazing, with their tea towels. And so I think, however strange the request, if it makes sense for the person and it makes sense for that moment, then I'm there for it. I think it's all good fun.
Agreed. If you had to sum up the most memorable ceremony you've led in just 3 words, which would you choose?
Well, if I like words, I don't like limiting myself to 3 words. For totally different reasons to the can one, I would say intimate, personal, therapeutic. There you are. That's 3.
Great, thank you. Your role asks a lot of you emotionally, but how do you look after yourself and recharge afterwards?
It does at times, yeah. I suppose there's a lot to be said for getting home and getting changed out of whatever I'm wearing for, be it a meeting or a ceremony, taking off my sort of Beth Kirkham ceremonies persona, becoming mum and wife again. So that definitely works. Then I love spending time outdoors. So, I'm fortunate to live in Sussex with amazing countryside all around. So I'll get myself to the top of a hill somewhere, or go and stand at the sea, get a bit of perspective. Sometimes that might be having a little sob in the wind or screaming into the void. But yeah, I think that grounding nature is very good for us. So that's the one for me.
You clearly get so much from supporting families, else you wouldn't continue in your role. For you personally though, what's the most rewarding part of being a celebrant?
It's definitely the people. Be that fellow suppliers or families, or friends and family that gather at a ceremony. You know, it's very much overused by celebrants, but with good reason. It is really an honour and a privilege to do the job that I do. I get to meet amazing people, hear stories about amazing people that sadly I will never meet, and to sort of be the guardian of those stories, to share them with others. And the fact that people put their trust in me to do that is a huge thing to me. And it's definitely those connections and those relationships that you make along the way. You know, there are lots of people that I've worked with for certain ceremonies and I've managed to stay in touch with because, you know, those connections are lasting, aren't they? And I'm sure you find the same.
Absolutely. So I know you've had a really interesting career path before your celebrancy. If you weren't doing this now, what other career do you think you'd be in?
Okay. So prior to becoming a celebrant, I had some time out as a mum. But before that, I was in the world of sports events, in British tennis and in rowing. And so I dare say I might have ended up back there eventually. It might have taken me a bit longer to get back there because I wasn't really ready to go back to that. That, or I'd have just totally ripped up all the rules and I'd be in the mountains somewhere running a ski chalet.
Like that idea a lot. Definitely. So, final question. How do you see funerals and ceremonies evolving in the future? Are there any emerging trends or perhaps recent opportunities you've worked on that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody who works within the world of funerals, and probably those who don't but see things on TV, will know that there is a huge move towards direct cremations currently, and my personal opinions on those are mixed. We'll save that for another time. But alongside that, there is also this trend for people to then choose another way to celebrate their loved one. So holding some sort of ceremony led by a celebrant or led by the family, or, you know, however feels right for that individual, but looking at different spaces, looking at different ways of doing things, and that really excites me. You know, in Sussex, we have got some amazing spaces. I've been lucky enough to lead ceremonies in pubs, in barns, in cricket clubs, and I think the fact that people are becoming much more aware of their choices and the different options out there can only be a positive thing. So, you know, if the increase in direct cremations allows people to maybe think differently, and look at those kind of celebration of life events alongside it, then that for me is a really positive thing. I probably just worry slightly about the people who don't, but yeah.
Sure, thank you. Audience, do we have any questions at all?
I have a question, Beth. If you were a musician, I'd be asking you how you go about writing a song. When you're coming up with a service for a family, where do you start?
It depends, actually, to be totally honest with you. Sometimes they come very easily, and sometimes they take a lot longer. It always starts with the notes that I've got from the meeting that I have with the family or next of kin. And what I'm trying to look for is some sort of continuous thread. So sometimes, like I say, that's really obvious, and I can immediately pull that out. Sometimes it takes me scribbling all over random bits of paper before suddenly I see something come to me. But generally, once it starts, it all comes together. Does that make sense?
Any further questions from anyone else? No? Okay. Beth, thank you so much for sharing your time and your experiences with us today. It's been a real privilege to hear about your journey as a celebrant. the challenges and of course rewards of your role and the impact that you've had on so many families. I know everyone here today will have taken a lot from your insight and of course your warmth. Before we wrap up, where can people find out more about your work and of course yourself?
Well, thanks for having me here today, Wolf. It's been an honour. So all the usual places. I've got a website. You can find me online as Beth Kirkham Ceremonies, and social media, Instagram, Facebook at Beth Kirkham Ceremonies.
Brilliant, thank you. Everyone, please join me in thanking Beth one last time.
Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like any more information about any of the topics that we've covered in this session, then please do visit the links below for more details, and we'll look forward to helping you soon.